The anime begins with our protagonist, who, the moment he opens his eyes and regains consciousness, immediately realizes that everything around him is completely dark. The first thing that crosses his mind is a question: where is the light? He also wonders where he is right now, and whether this could possibly be his room. That's when he notices a faint line forming above him, slowly illuminating the darkness. The light weakens just enough for a crack to appear. As soon as that happens, he panics, because beyond the crack, he can make out what looks like a forest, or perhaps a jungle. This only confuses him further, as he has no idea how he ended up in such a place. Unable to move at all, he can only ask himself, what in the world is going on? Suddenly, a status window appears in front of him, stating that his race is Dragon Egg. Before he can even begin to process that information, a mysterious voice unexpectedly speaks to him, explaining that the status screen has been activated and that his abilities are displayed as easy-to-understand numerical values. The protagonist assumes this voice might be able to answer his questions and tries to gather more information. It is then that the system informs him that this is thanks to a skill called Divine Voice, Level 1, which provides information about his current status, his items, and also explains any changes to his condition. Hearing this, the protagonist asks if this is some kind of video game. However, the system immediately responds that Divine Voice, Level 1, does not grant access to that explanation. From this, the protagonist assumes that if he manages to level up, his questions might finally be answered. So, he changes his approach and asks who exactly is speaking to him. Once again, the system responds coldly, stating that Divine Voice, Level 1, does not grant access to that explanation. This repeated refusal clearly unsettles and frustrates him. Desperate for answers, he asks again who the voice is and where he is right now, but the system once more refuses to respond to those specific questions. Angered by this, the protagonist begins to panic and struggle, causing the egg he is inside to wobble violently. Moments later, it loses balance and falls from the tree it had been resting on. After hitting the ground, he realizes just how far he fell. Seconds later, the system notifies him that he has acquired a new skill, Fall Resistance. Although this should be good news, the protagonist focuses on something far more alarming. He has lost 1 HP point. His health now reads 4 out of 5. Suddenly, the system announces that he has obtained a title, Clumsy. Infuriated, the protagonist demands that the system stop making fun of him. Moments later, the egg begins rolling uncontrollably downhill, sending him into a brief panic as he has no way to stop himself. When it finally comes to a halt, he looks through the crack in his shell and realizes he nearly fell into the water below. As he looks closer, he sees his reflection and confirms without a doubt that he truly is an egg. As he stares at the horizon, lost in thought, he complains that none of this makes any sense, unable to understand what is happening to him or why he is here. Recalling how RPGs usually work, he assumes that by accumulating experience and levels, he should eventually be able to evolve. That thought leads him to a troubling possibility, that he may need to defeat enemies. The idea feels absurd, considering he is nothing more than an egg. After a while, he suddenly stops, sensing something ahead. Carefully rolling closer, he peeks out while hiding behind a tree. Unable to see it clearly, he assumes it is some kind of insect, but this is enough for him to realize that he is not alone in this place. He then uses status on the creature, revealing that it belongs to the dark worm race and carries the title Egg Eater. Needless to say, he does not like the sound of that. As he continues reading the information, the worm notices his presence and immediately shows its hostility, charging straight toward him. Fearing that its intention is to devour him, the protagonist barely has time to react. As the creature lunges at him, he instinctively rolls away at full speed to escape. As he keeps moving, he complains about how persistent this predator is. No matter how far he rolls, it refuses to give up the chase, forcing him to consider that defeating it might be his only option. Seizing a moment of momentum, he jumps, and while airborne, he uses status on his enemy once more. The result confirms his fear. The worm has more HP than he does, making a direct confrontation a terrible idea. Because of this, he decides that creating an opening is the only way forward. Spotting a small cliff ahead, he places his trust in his ability to survive a fall from that height. When he reaches the edge, he suddenly stops. The worm takes the bait and lunges at him, attempting to devour him, but at the last second, the protagonist twists his body and narrowly dodges the attack. As a result, the worm plunges off the cliff. To finish the job, the protagonist throws himself down as well, crashing directly onto the creature's body and making the fall even more brutal. After slamming into the ground, he confirms that he also took damage even though the worm's body helped cushion the impact. Next, he waits, hoping that this strategy has finally killed the monster. However, his hope is crushed the moment the worm pushes him off and reveals an overwhelming thirst for blood. The protagonist desperately begs for it to fall asleep already, and, as if answering his plea, the worm collapses once more, this time showing no signs of life. Having defeated it, the system informs him that he has gained 12 experience points and that his title, Walking Egg, grants him an additional 12 bonus experience points. The protagonist begins to think that if he can gain experience by defeating enemies, then this truly must be a game. But as he reflects on that thought, the system delivers another announcement. The Dragon Egg has gone from level 1 to level 5, reaching the maximum level and unlocking the opportunity to evolve. Hearing this, the protagonist is stunned. When the system asks if he would like to view his available evolution evolutions, he accepts without hesitation. Upon his confirmation, the system presents him with two evolutionary paths. One is called Baby Dragon, and the other is Drake. Seeing these options leaves him conflicted, unsure of which path to choose. Suddenly, the system begins explaining the Drake evolution. It is a smaller species, and while it is small by dragon standards, it is still larger than a bear. Another important detail is that its fire breath is feared by adventurers. The protagonist admits that having this kind of information explained so clearly is pretty amazing, and he asks the system to tell him about the other option. The system then lists the traits and notable details of the baby dragon, such as the fact that its meat is extremely tender, making it a prized delicacy when properly seasoned. On top of that, it is quite weak, with short claws and underdeveloped fangs. However, it possesses tremendous potential, with multiple possible evolutions, although most of them end up being hunted down by adventurers or other monsters. Faced with this information, the protagonist can't help but complain. He finds it depressing, especially since it initially sounded more like a culinary guide than an evolution path. Taking all those drawbacks into account, he immediately rejects that evolution, believing that the Drake seems far more balanced. Suddenly, a different voice echoes directly inside his mind, urging him to become strong. The message repeats itself several times. The voice goes on to say that only one path lies before him, the path to the summit, and that great expectations have been placed upon him, so he must not disappoint. Caught completely off guard by this sudden message, the protagonist wonders if what he heard was divine voice, the same system that informs him about his status and abilities. The system then notifies him that the divine voice skill has advanced from level 1 to level 2. Immediately, the protagonist asks whether the voice he just heard was the result of reaching level 2, since it sounded entirely different from the system's usual responses. But when no answer comes, he starts to wonder if he heard that message because he had described the Drake as a balanced evolution. Unable to get the thought out of his head, he repeats the message to himself, trying to analyze its meaning, that only one path lies before him, the path to the summit. As he focuses more deeply, he comes to a realization: the baby dragon actually holds greater potential, capable of evolving into countless kinds of dragons. In comparison, the Drake appears to offer far fewer possibilities, making it likely that its evolution would eventually stagnate. After several minutes of reflection, he finally makes his decision. He tells the system that he will choose Baby Dragon, declaring that he will not regret the path he has chosen. Immediately afterward, the egg cracks open as his body undergoes a sudden transformation. He has evolved from a dragon egg into a baby dragon. The system informs him that thanks to his title, Child of the Dragon King, level 1, all resistances below level 5 are enhanced. He also acquires several new skills: Dragon Scales, Baby Breath, Hiss, and Bite. After taking a moment to examine his new appearance, he checks his stats and realizes that they have skyrocketed. However, even after evolving, his HP and MP have not fully recovered. This makes one thing clear: whether he evolves or not, he still needs to rest. An important lesson to learn. He then approaches the worm's corpse and offers it his thanks, acknowledging that thanks to it, he was able to break free from his shell. Suddenly, his stomach growls, demanding food. As he stares at the monster's body, hunger sets in, making him realize that his body wants to eat it. Though confused at first, he understands that this is his dragon instinct, something necessary to regenerate and to fight again. He then recalls the words of that mysterious voice, the one that urged him to grow stronger, and he becomes convinced that he must continue to strengthen himself. With a shift in mindset, he casts aside his doubts and begins devouring the monster's corpse, even as he complains internally about how disgusting the act feels. The next day, he wakes up feeling surprisingly refreshed, having slept comfortably. The first thing he does is head toward the water to look at his reflection once more. It is then that he realizes the truth. He has been reincarnated into this world, now existing as a newborn dragon. On top of that, the world itself seems to function like an RPG. He can gain EXP to level up, and even evolve. However, he has no memory of who he was before. Although he believes he was once human, he has no idea what he did, or even whether he was a man or a woman. As these thoughts cross his mind, monsters like the one he fought earlier begin creeping up behind him, stalking him from the shadows. Yet instead of feeling fear, he calmly prepares himself and begins the hunt. In an instant, he leaps onto one of them, slashing it apart with his claws. As he continues defeating them, he gains experience with surprising ease. After all, he is far stronger than before. After exterminating several of them, the system notifies him that the baby dragon has advanced from level 1 to level 3. He then begins using Baby Breath, allowing him to incinerate multiple worms at once. By defeating even more of them, the baby dragon reaches level 7. As the battles continue, he earns the title Striker, followed shortly by the skill Dragon Fist. He repeats this hunt without pause, and upon reaching level 15, the protagonist feels satisfied, convinced that he is steadily approaching the summit. At that moment, he becomes distracted by an unpleasant thought: whether he will have to eat more of these monsters. Just remembering the taste and texture makes him feel nauseous. Because of that, he wonders if he can try eating something other than insects. Unfortunately, he learns the hard way that the mushrooms in this forest are extremely dangerous, making it a terrible mistake. Despite that, the system informs him that he has acquired the skill Poison Resistance, and that the title Clumsy has increased from level 2 to level 3. From there, he continues roaming the forest, intent on finding new prey. Suddenly, he notices something ahead: a level 6 gray wolf, who whose stats are clearly inferior to his own. As he begins to chase it, he fires his fire breath, followed immediately by Dragon Fist, more than enough to completely incinerate the wolf. Approaching the corpse, he notices that the scent rising from it resembles that of roasted meat. Acting on instinct, he blasts it once more with his breath, turning it into properly cooked meat. After taking a bite, he continues eating without stopping. It tastes far better than anything he had consumed before, exactly what he needed. Sometime later, he reaches level 20. As he rests, he reflects on the fact that his next evolution will occur at level 25. While it doesn't seem too far away, he can already tell that leveling up is becoming slower with each step. While preparing the meat he plans to eat, he is suddenly distracted by strange sounds coming from somewhere nearby. Although he can't understand the words, he clearly recognizes it as human language. Because of that, he moves closer, carefully observing them while staying hidden. Judging by their clothing, he comes to the conclusion that this truly is a fantasy world. On top of that, he believes that despite being a dragon, he looks rather cute, so things should be fine. By checking each of their status screens individually, he realizes that while they are weak on their own, as a group, they could be stronger than him. After giving it serious thought, he decides to approach them in a friendly manner. As soon as he does, he asks them not to hurt him, explaining that he is not an evil dragon, all while putting on the most adorable expression he can manage. However, when he puts on his cute act, the adventurer at the front signals the girl beside him to step back. Then, he flashes an unmistakably hostile smile. In his eyes, the protagonist is nothing more than another horrible monster. Without hesitation, the adventurer slashes his sword through the air, sending a ranged blade attack straight toward him and carving a deep wound across the protagonist's chest. Unable to communicate properly, he begs them for mercy, insisting that he is not their enemy. But before anything can change, the mage fires an offensive lightning spell, dealing even more damage and leaving his body completely paralyzed. While he lies defenseless, the system notifies him that he has acquired the skill Magic Resistance. Even as he tries to flee, his body refuses to respond. In that moment, he realizes that he has failed, because to them, he is nothing more than an enemy or food. Trapped in such a hopeless situation, he calls himself a fool, wondering why he ever believed a dragon could befriend humans. Worse still, he mocks his own struggle, breaking out of his egg and evolving, only to end up with a pathetic fate like this. Even so, he repeats one thought over and over: he wants to live. He doesn't want to die. Using every last ounce of strength he has, he drags himself across the ground, desperately begging for help. When he finally runs out of strength, tears spill from his eyes as he pleads for mercy, knowing full well that they cannot even understand him. Just as the swordsman raises his blade to deliver the finishing blow, the girl suddenly steps in front of him, blocking the attack and speaking to him instead. The protagonist can't understand a single word of their exchange. From his position on the ground, all he can tell is that the girl seems to be protecting him, even though he has no idea what is happening. When he regains full awareness, the first thing he feels is a gentle, soothing warmth. Looking more closely, he realizes it is magic, and that she is the one healing him. The girl says something, and the protagonist barely manages to make out that she is asking if he's alright. He is deeply shaken that she would help him, a dragon, and he feels overwhelming gratitude. In the end, the swordsman and the mage let it go without further resistance. As the protagonist checks her status, he learns her name, Miria Miliania, a terrestrial human. He also notices that she has almost no MP left, yet despite that, she still used her healing magic on him. Another thing he realizes is that once he recovers, she will leave. Even though the paralysis is slowly fading, he chooses to remain still for a little longer. As a result, the system notifies him that he has acquired the title Liar. A short while later, Miria says something to him, and at that moment, the protagonist gains the skill Grecian Tongue. He takes this as a sign that the higher this skill levels up, the more he will be able to understand her, something he eagerly looks forward to. That brief moment of peace is suddenly shattered by a terrifying roar. It is followed by the screams of other humans, making it clear to the protagonist that something is terribly wrong and that the enemy is incredibly powerful. Without hesitation, Miria rushes toward the danger to help them. In response, the protagonist grabs onto her clothes, not wanting her to go, fully aware that judging by those screams, there is nothing she can do. He also knows that with no MP left, she won't be able to use her healing spells. As if she understands the message he is trying to convey, she gently shakes him off and moves forward anyway. This fills the protagonist with desperation, especially since he is still unable to stand due to the lingering paralysis. Certain that they cannot defeat this monster, he forces himself to rise, believing that there may still be a chance to change the outcome if he joins the fight. When he finally reaches the scene, he realizes that the monster is a rock drake, classified as rank C. It has 197 hit points, while he has only 38 out of 72 remaining. Even so, he refuses to be intimidated and quickly surveys the area, spotting Miria lying on the ground beside the drake. At that very moment, the monster notices his presence and shifts its attention toward him, catching him completely off guard. After dodging an attack, he immediately hides behind some bushes, knowing that if that rock dragon gets near him now, he's seriously going to die. He sees that Miria is still alive, and the rock dragon has spotted her, so it's heading straight for her. However, once again, the divine voice speaks to him, and this time, it is telling him to run away, because he's going to die if he doesn't. He's already well aware of that, because he has zero skills or stats that can beat that rock dragon right now. The MC knows that the divine voice is right, especially seeing how huge that dragon truly is, but he can't help but remember the way Miria saved him without hesitation. He knows that he has to do this, so he immediately runs straight for the rock dragon before it reaches Miria. Using his rolling skill, he dodges one of the attacks, and the divine voice lets him know that he has received the title King of Evasion. The MC tries to focus on the battle, and notices that the old man who was with Miria didn't make it. On the other hand, the other man is still alive, though he's unconscious and bleeding, with only 5 hit points left. The rock dragon attacks again, but the MC knows that he has to do something to save them, so he decides to use his rolling skill to get its attention. His plan is to get it away from here, and then come back and help those two, but the task proves to be harder than he thought. The rock dragon manages to hit him with a long-range attack using a skill called Tremor that's impossible to evade. This leaves him without many options, but he tries to think about any other ways. When the rock dragon uses Bite, the MC decides to use his Fire Punch to attack, and this manages to do some damage. The rock dragon recovers the HP lost in just a second, but he knows that this is his chance, so he decides to take Miria and run away. There's still the other guy, but he knows that he can't save them both in his conditions, so he'll save the girl at the very least. The rock dragon tries to attack again, but its giant size makes it much slower, which allows the MC to run away with the girl. Once they're far away, the MC puts her down for a moment to check her vitals, and notices that her HP went down because of the blood loss. He thinks about using some healing magic, but decides to focus on getting her to a safe place first. The MC tries to remember which direction she was coming from when they first met, and his sense of smell helps him perceive the scent of humans. Without wasting any time, he carries Miria and runs, following the scent of humans. However, he stops as soon as he perceives a different smell. Knowing that grey wolves are approaching, he runs as fast as he can because he doesn't know how many of them there are. Soon enough, he realizes that they're multiplying, and he ends up surrounded by them. Having no way to escape, he puts Miria down and tries to fight them despite how many they are. Miria remains unconscious, but the loud noises make her open her eyes for a brief moment, and she manages to see him fighting the wolves. She loses her consciousness right away after that, and the MC carries her on his back after he defeats all the grey wolves. Even though he managed to defend her, he truly is at his limit now, and the exhaustion barely lets him move. Fortunately, he eventually finds a human village, so he tries to call someone for help. However, his desperate words sound like the roar of a beast to humans, who quickly approach him with weapons. He tries to ask them for help, but he only gets stabbed on his leg, and the humans clearly only see him as a monster. The MC desperately tries to explain that he just wants to help the girl, but when he sees the hostility in their eyes, he understands that there's nothing he can do to change that. That's why he gently places Miria down, making sure she's okay before leaving, hoping that they can take care of her. After he runs away, the humans decide to remain vigilant, saying that the monster might come back and attack them. They quickly take care of Miria, and the MC is content with that, knowing that she should survive now. He's deeply injured now, but realizes that a dragon is a dragon, no matter where it's at. As he walks away, the divine voice tells him that he has received the title Itty Bitty Hero, Level 1. 2 days after what happened, Miria finally wakes up in the house of a girl named Marielle, who tells her that she had to treat her wounds. Marielle confesses that she hasn't used such powerful white magic in a while, but it seems that she's mostly healed from the worst of it. She also informs her that she was out for a good 2 days, but she should still sleep for a while longer. Miria decides to listen to her and lies back down, thinking that someone must have brought her back to the village. Now that she knows that Miria is okay, Marielle freely complains, because she can't even count how many times she told Daz not to invite any trouble. Miria then asks her where Daz and Grants are, because they were with her when they faced the rock dragon. Marielle pauses for a moment and then informs her that Grants is dead, and they found his corpse in the woods. It looked like he was bludgeoned to death with a rock. Marielle blames Daz for what happened, because no one in their right minds would pick a fight with a rock dragon. Miria asks her what happened to Daz, and Marielle tells her that they have yet to find his body, but it seems safe to assume that he was eaten. Miria tries to process the information, but it doesn't take her long to realize that she's the only one who survived, and guilt hits her right after that. She immediately starts crying and blames herself for what happened, saying that if she had just stopped Daz, this wouldn't have happened. Marielle tries to comfort her and tells her that it's honestly a blessing that even she alone came back to them alive. Daz was the type to never listen to anyone after all, so she shouldn't blame herself for that. Miria continues crying and tells her that Daz wasn't a bad person, and he was always the first one to get rid of the monsters that strayed into their village. A lot of the kids adored him too, because his actions were admirable and he was strong. However, one day, one of the villagers challenged him, saying that he couldn't beat a rock dragon. Daz didn't take that very well, and Miria saw the whole thing when another villager told him that he's the one who got scared and ran home. Daz tried to remind them that that happened years ago, and told them that he could definitely beat one if he tried now. The villagers asked him not to even try, and reminded him that he had no one to drag along with him this time. Despite their warnings, Daz was already decided, saying that he would beat a rock dragon soon. Soon enough, he decided to team up with Grants, and approached Miria to tell her that he got permission from Marielle to hunt a rock dragon. This was clearly a lie, but Daz even told her that since Marielle was busy, she said they should ask her for help. Miria had her doubts, and asked them where Marielle was at the moment, wanting to hear that from her in person. However, Daz simply told her that Marielle was already gone, on because she had business in the next village over. Miria hesitated for a moment anyway and tried to remind them that the rock dragon is the strongest monster around the village, so Marielle said to never, under any circumstances, engage with one. She also warned her that she shouldn't help, even if he wanted to go hunt it. Daz took this the wrong way and asked her if she was saying that he was lying, putting her in a difficult position. Trying to convince her, he told her that Grants was there when Marielle gave them permission. That was clearly also a lie, but Daz warned her that they would go for the rock dragon, even if she didn't go with them, and there's a chance he and Grants are going to die if she doesn't. Miria had no other choice but to accept after that, falling straight into Daz's trap. After hearing that story, Marielle mentions that Daz's own pride cost him his life, and it lets her see that humans make the wrong decisions for such trivial things. She asks Miria to be careful and not to make the same mistake, because it can cost her her life as well. Miria agrees and wipes her tears, but Marielle finally smiles and tells her that it's impressive that she escaped and made it here with such serious wounds. Miria immediately sits up after hearing that and asks her if someone didn't carry her here from the forest. Marielle gets really confused at that and reminds her that they found her getting attacked by a monster just outside the village. Miria tries to explain that she was attacked by the rock dragon in the forest, and that's when she lost consciousness, so there's no way she could have come here by herself. Marielle tells her that that's ridiculous, because no one in this village would risk wandering in the forest alone at night. She was out cold on the outskirts of the village, and they say she was attacked by a monster there, so Gregory drove it away. Miria is clearly confused, because she doesn't remember anything at all, but Marielle explains that humans can lose their memory after suffering a huge shock, so perhaps that's what happened to her. Miria considers that option, but she manages to remember seeing a baby dragon fighting against a pack of grey wolves. She immediately asks what the monster next to her looked like, but Marielle tells her that she has no idea, because it had already run away by the time she got there. Miria decides not to say anything else, but deep down, she starts wondering if it could have been that dragon from before. Some days later, the MC wakes up in the middle of the woods and realizes that all his wounds are better now. He knows that resting heals him, but it's still crazy to him how he recovered from so much damage. It's clear that dragons are built tough, because if he was human, he probably wouldn't have healed so quickly. He just hopes that Miria is okay by now, and remembers how powerless he felt when he saved her. Even though he evolved and felt like he had gotten stronger, he realized that he actually hasn't at all. If only he had been tougher, perhaps things would have been different, and maybe he could have beaten that rock dragon. That's why he knows that he has to get stronger, and he doesn't waste any time either. So he soon decides to find a pack of dark worms to fight. He ties a dark worm to a tree, and this attracts all the dark worms around. When they're all gathered around the trap, the MC immediately jumps at them, crushing them in seconds. He proudly says that he made use of their Call Allies skill to set a trap, and it worked like wonders. The divine voice tells him that he has received the title of wrongdoer, and the MC feels like that's a little harsh. He clarifies that he won't use this method again after this, but he'll use these dark worms now to reach the next stage of evolution sooner. Without wasting any time, he starts fighting the dark worms, defeating them one by one in a matter of minutes. The divine voice informs him that he has received 24 EXP, and soon enough, it informs him that he has received 48 EXP more. The MC doesn't stop and continues exterminating these dark worms without mercy. He uses Dragon Punch against them and manages to get rid of the majority of the dark worms in no time. Once they're all down, he tells them that it was heroic of them all to rush to help their friend in trouble, so he will always remember their noble sacrifice. Finally, he turns the last dark worm into ashes with his fire breath, and that helps him reach level 25. The MC cheers, and the divine voice lets him know that he has met the requirements for evolution and has maxed out his level. Now that he has met the requirements for evolution, the divine voice asks him if he would like to view the evolution tree. The MC excitedly accepts, and the divine voice shows him all the evolutions available. He's got 5 whole different options this time, though there is a disturbing one mixed at the end called Young Plague Dragon. The other options are Kid Marble Dragon, Kid Dragon, Mini Angel Dragon, and Mini Dragon. He hesitates before deciding which one he should pick, wondering what the difference between Mini and Kid and Baby and Little is. He is also curious about that Young Plague Dragon option as well, and it is making him have a hard time deciding which one to choose. All his confusion is gone the moment the divine voice decides to speak, saying that regarding the evolved forms of certain monster types, Little does not describe the stage of evolution, but rather the size limitations of that particular species. The MC is a little surprised that the divine voice is answering his questions for once, so he decides to listen carefully. The divine voice tells him that while Little types experience faster stat development, they have less evolution paths and abilities compared to the Baby types. Thanks to that explanation, the MC quickly understands that Little types grow faster and therefore survive easier, but they are a bad choice in the long run. That's why he apparently made the right choice, becoming a Baby type instead. The divine voice continues explaining that the Kid type is a higher ranked version of the Baby type. On the other hand, Mini types have less evolution choices, but enjoy the benefit of having a stable evolution tree. That part is clear enough, so the MC decides to ask about the Young Dragon type now, but the divine voice apparently has nothing to say on that one. Knowing that he won't get any further explanation, he assumes that it is probably close to what the Kid type type is. Still, he will have to get a detailed explanation of each choice before he chooses. The divine voice informs him that Mini Dragon has the same small stature as the little dragon, but its individual growth is slow and has limited evolution choices. However, in exchange for that, many of its future evolutions feature great potential. The MC mentions that he's not a fan of slow growth and limited evolution choices, so he asks the divine voice to tell him more about the next one. The divine voice informs him that Mini Angel Dragon is a dragon that has obtained protective spirit and swears to live for the sake of others. While it can make use of numerous white magic spells, its fighting ability is not very high. The MC sees the title skill of protective spirit and mentions that it looks like the evolution path may vary based on the title. There aren't many possibilities for mini types, and he's not really loving that it has no battle ability, but white magic is recovery magic, the one Miria used to heal his wounds when they first met. While he gives that option some thought, the divine voice continues explaining the other choices. It tells him that Kid Dragon is the next natural form after Baby Dragon, and although it is still not fully mature, its physical abilities are significantly improved. The MC understands that it is just a stronger version of Baby Dragon, and that's the legitimate path for him, in a way. The divine voice informs him that Kid Marble Dragon is a dragon that has undergone a mutation, has polka-dotted skin, and also has stronger magic than a normal dragon. The MC is seemingly interested in that, knowing that it's got more magical prowess, which would be great in the long run. Mutation also has a nice ring to it, like some kind of special limited-time merch. Before he can decide anything, the divine voice tells him about the Young Plague Dragon choice, something that he wasn't even considering. The divine voice explains that the Young Plague Dragon is the first stage of an evil dragon that spreads disaster. However, it has not strayed too far from the righteous path and may yet backtrack. The MC immediately rejects the idea, not even wanting to hear the rest of the explanation. He has no idea what spreading disaster means, but he surely doesn't want to find out. After all, if he chooses Young Plague Dragon, he'll be even more alone than he is now. The divine voice continues speaking anyway, saying that the Young Plague Dragon has incredibly high intelligence and can use the human transformation skill to visit human villages, though it's generally only for nefarious purposes. The MC keeps thinking that it's a terrible idea until he processes the human transformation part. Choosing that option and being able to transform into a human would mean that he can go to the village without getting attacked, and he wouldn't be alone anymore. The only issue is that he would still be an evil dragon with the plague, and that makes him enter an internal conflict, not knowing which option he should choose. The concept of becoming a young plague dragon feels like an all-around bad idea, but he's still worried about Miria, so he wants the human transformation skill no matter what. After thinking very hard into it, the MC says that if he can just learn human transformation, he can live a pure and honest life, and if worst comes to worst, he can always go back. Just like that, he decides that he's going to evolve into a young plague dragon, and his body instantly transforms. The divine voice informs him that he has evolved from baby dragon to young plague dragon. Even though that's what he wanted, as soon as the MC sees his reflection on the water, he doesn't feel as sure about his decision. He's completely different from the cute dragon he was before, and the more he looks, the more evil he seems. The divine voice tells him that his view stat skill has gone up from level 2 to 3, so he can now review the details of his own skills. The divine voice skill has also gone from level 1 to level 2, and he has gained the skills Fly and Dragon Scale Powder. The MC is glad to hear the good news, but the divine voice also informs him that his Nibble skill has become Venom Fangs. He has received Dark Type, Diseased Breath, and Paralyzing Venom Claws. These skills truly sound dangerous, so he tells the divine voice that he doesn't need those. However, the divine voice continues, saying that he has received the title Calamity as well, and Wrongdoer has gone from level 1 to level 2. All that information makes him start thinking that this might have been a really bad idea after all. To make things worse, he doesn't hear anything about the human transformation he was promised. That means that he became a flying calamity for nothing, but he wants to think that he just has to level up to get that skill. The divine voice tells him that it can't provide explanations of that nature at level 3. The MC falls defeated after the divine voice stops responding, feeling bad that he got all these weird skills instead of human transformation. At least he can check the details himself now, and he wants to learn about the divine voice skill first, because he doesn't know whose voice it is. The divine voice simply tells him that it can't provide explanations of that nature at level 3, but he already had a feeling that would be the case. He decides to learn more about the other skills in that case, like the Dragon Scale Powder one. The divine voice explains that by flapping its wings, the dragon can spread a debilitating miasma that affects everything around it. At max level, the dragon can wipe out entire nations simply by flying over them. The MC slightly moves his wings, and that simple motion kills a flower next to him, making him panic. He really doesn't like the idea of being a biological weapon now, and says that a warning would have been nice. That powder just came out when he moved his wings, and he'd never get near a dragon like this if he was human. The divine voice continues, explaining that Diseased Breath is a breath attack that spreads a disease-laden miasma. Not only does it cause severe debuffs, but it is extremely contagious, and was once responsible for wiping out an entire civilization. The MC freaks out, saying that it can't possibly get more evil than that, so he wonders wonders if he can really go back to the good guy path. He decides to check his titles, because titles seem like they'll have a big influence down the line. The divine voice tells him that Itty Bitty Hero is a title for those who embody modest courage and whose kindness may someday lead them to heroic status. Damage is slightly increased for certain weapons, and it also has a major influence on the evolution path. The MC doesn't dislike the idea at all, because he might be able to avoid the evil dragon route if he levels that one up. The divine voice continues, saying that Wrongdoer is a title for diabolic villains who leave behind mountains of corpses, laughing evilly as they count their victims. Damage is slightly increased for dark-type attacks, and further, it makes learning white magic spells harder and reduces overall recovery rate. It also has a major influence on the evolution path, just like the other title. The MC immediately interrupts the explanation, saying that that's the worst skill he's ever heard of. He starts thinking that he totally made the wrong choice, so he asks the divine voice to take him back because he wants to be an innocent baby again. While he freaks out and regrets his decision, Marielle and Miria check all the warding stones in the village. Marielle explains that the warding stones create a barrier around the village to prevent monsters from getting in. It's really just a charm that subconsciously encourages them from wandering past this point, but it can be ineffective against monsters that are strong-willed or have some sort of goal in mind. Miria assumes that that includes the monster from the other day, but Marielle clarifies that she's not sure because she didn't see it for herself. Despite that, Miria keeps thinking that maybe it really was trying to help, especially after seeing it fighting those wolves. Marielle mentions that if it entered the village due to the charm being broken, then that's a problem, and it may return. That's why she decides to move on to the next charm and checks that everything is alright. Once they're done, Miria asks her if she can tell her more about monsters, but Marielle mentions that she's been oddly obsessed with monsters ever since the incident. Miria confesses that she can't shake the feeling that she was saved by a small dragon she met in the forest. Marielle stops her right there and asks her if she's developing feelings for a monster. Miria quickly denies it, but she hesitates a little either way. Despite how unsure she looks, Marielle decides that it wouldn't hurt her to know about monsters. She explains that monsters can evolve into different forms, and they get stronger with every evolution. They do this by hunting other creatures to level up, and levels are something that humans have as well. Miria mentions that humans can level up and improve their abilities by accumulating experience. Marielle confirms it and says that when it comes to monsters, different types have a different maximum level. Once they reach their maximum level, they evolve into a monster that is one rank higher. They repeat that process and take on more powerful forms over time. Miria tells her that it's hard to believe the people of the past were able to figure out the nature of monsters. Marielle just asks her what she's talking about because she knows that she has explained the history to her before, a mere 11 years ago. Of course, Miria doesn't remember that at all because she was only 5 years old then and she had just met her. Marielle admits that she's right, and Miria tells her that she was so tiny that she had to look up at her. Marielle immediately glares at her, and Miria quickly realizes that she touched a nerve by mentioning her height. Even though that's probably true, Marielle denies it and changes the subject entirely. She explains that special people appear from time to time who can hear a divine voice, which shares information about monsters, levels, and the like, such as heroes or saints. They are how they know all this, and it wasn't the result of trial and error. Monsters fight to survive, gain experience, and attempt to evolve. So in other words, every monster is driven to seek power and become more ferocious. Even if that dragon really did save her life, the next time they cross paths, it will have evolved into something more menacing and will turn those fangs and claws on her. Miria immediately stops her from saying anything else, but Marielle warns her that she must not have any odd expectations of monsters. Meanwhile, the MC decides that he'll level up super fast and get back on the right track because he's going to be a hero, not a demon king. For starters, he wants to learn human transformation and go to the village because he'd like to see Miria again. Without wasting any time, he tries to find some weak monsters nearby to gain tons of experience. However, walking suddenly becomes difficult, and that's when he notices that there are threads around his body, stopping him from moving. A huge monster appears right behind him just then, but that's not the kind of spider he was expecting. The MC quickly checks its stats and finds out that it's a really strong Taranturage. He doesn't think he can beat it right now, but before he can even attempt to escape, the spider shoots its webs towards him. He immediately uses baby breath to burn the threads, but his own body also catches fire. As he rolls on the ground to put out the fire, the divine voice informs him that he has gained the skill Fire Resistance. Once he manages to put out the fire, he stands back up and quickly checks the spider to see how much damage it took from his attack. The monster still has 62 hit points out of 78 total, so his attack wasn't as effective as he hoped. He then decides to use his claws against the spider, using his paralyzing Venom Claws skill for the first time. After attacking the spider continuously, he quickly backs off and checks its stats, seeing that it now has 42 hit points. The Taranturuge's status says that it is burned, slightly paralyzed, and completely enraged, which can't be good. The MC doesn't understand how it still has half of its HP, and he's clearly worried that he just pissed it off. That definitely can't be a good sign, so he decides that he has to run for it now while it's paralyzed. He immediately runs away with his rolling skill, but to his bad luck, the paralysis soon wears off, and the enraged spider chases after him. Just then, he remembers that he has the fly fly skill, but his small wings don't let him get so far. He's really confused that he can't actually fly and assumes that his level is too low. He doesn't have much time to think because the spider is about to catch him, so he goes back to his rolling skill to escape. After a whole 10 minutes of rolling, the spider is still chasing after him, and it's not showing any signs of exhaustion at all. The divine voice lets him know that the skill roll has gone from level 2 to level 3. That gives him some hope, so he starts believing that he's going to make it out of this, because he's way faster now. The divine voice tells him that he has gained the title Chicken Runner, and the MC immediately asks if it's calling him a coward. He clarifies that he would fight the spider if he thought he stood any chance of winning, but this is not the case. The situation worsens when he notices an incoming cliff, and he knows that a drop like that will kill him for sure. He wonders if he should turn right before the edge, but then thinks that he can simply escape if he just makes it to the other side. His fly skill is unreliable, but he decides to jump at full speed either way, hoping for the best. Right after he jumps, he spreads his wings on the highest point and tries riding the wind to get to the other side. That turned out better than he thought, and he's glad to know that he managed to get away, though he's extremely exhausted now. The spider completely disappeared from his sight, so he just assumes that it gave up and left. The MC confidently promises that he's coming back after leveling up to fight it for sure. However, that's when he looks back at the cliff and realizes that the spider didn't actually leave, and it created a bridge with its webbing to get to the other side. The MC panics and realizes that this monster is beyond persistent, so he immediately starts rolling again. The divine voice tells him that the skill roll has gone from level 3 to level 4. That's nice and all, but the MC is still fighting for his life, so he doesn't have time to get happy about it. A gray wolf casually gets on the way, so the MC simply rolls over it and gains 20 experience in the process. The divine voice tells him that due to the effect of the walking egg title, he has earned an additional 12 experience points, and young plague dragon has gone from level 1 to level 3. A forest cutter also gets on the way, and the MC runs over the insect as well, gaining even more experience. He also runs over a wargmush, a weird monster butterfly, and other monsters on accident. He's doing literal hit and runs here, which further increases his experience on his wrongdoer title. The divine voice lets him know that young plague dragon has gone from level 3 to level 8. His stats are really getting up there just by him running away, so he starts thinking that maybe he can beat the spider now. He finally stops running and faces the spider, quickly checking the skills it has, which include bite, paralyzing tongue, spider silk, and double poison. He has no idea what double poison is, but he decides that he'll get in close and hit with a full-powered baby breath anyway. Before he can do anything, the spider shows him what double poison is and releases a powerful toxin in the air. The MC quickly jumps onto a tree to keep some distance, and he can move thanks to poison resistance, but his throat is killing him because of that toxin. He soon realizes that the spider is waiting for the poison to kick in because it doesn't know that he's poison resistant. That gives him a great idea, so he decides to cough and fall off the tree, pretending that he's dying. The spider soon falls into his trap and jumps to attack him right away. Even though his throat still hurts, the MC doesn't hesitate and uses baby breath against the spider, knowing that it can't avoid it when it's airborne. He finishes the spider with a strong blow with his tail, and the divine voice informs him that he has gone from level 8 to level 14. The MC feels satisfied, because beating that tough monster made his level really shoot up. The divine voice informs him that the skill baby breath has gone from level 2 to level 3, and he has acquired the skill Dragon Tail. He excitedly waits for the divine voice to mention the skill that lets him be a human, but once again, it simply stops responding. That makes him feel hopeless again, wondering if there is something he needs to do first to learn human transformation. It was a really exhausting day, so he just decides to eat something and rest up somewhere. Fortunately, he finds a nice-looking cave, and since it's apparently empty, he quickly gets in the cave and makes a fire to cook something for dinner. He's happy to have grilled meat for dinner, but it smells kind of gamey, unfortunately. Just then, he remembers that he found some fruits earlier, and they have a pretty good smell, almost like pepper. When he puts the juice on the meat, it gets rid of the gaminess, and the slightly spicy aroma and flavor makes it so good that he wants to eat even more. Thanks to that, he manages to enjoy his meal, and he decides that he'll make this cave his base, and he'll start gathering that red fruit. It's a little too wet and sticky to use as seasoning though, so he'll try drying it outside, because that might also help with preserving it. The divine voice informs him that he has gained the title Mr. Chef, though he starts feeling like his private life is getting broadcasted, and asks the divine voice to stop acting like a commentator. After stuffing himself with food, the MC wonders if he can get popular with the villagers with his home cooking. He quickly discards the idea, because no matter what feasts he prepares, looking like an evil dragon will scare them off for sure. He was a little cute as a baby dragon, but with the intimidating appearance he has now, he bets even Miria wouldn't recognize him. The MC blames himself, saying that this is what he gets for thirsting after that human transformation skill, and now he's totally stuck in the enemy of mankind storyline. While he regrets his decision once again, Miria finds out that Bertz, one of the villagers, saw Dawes at a pond right outside the village. He didn't notice him, and just kept walking deeper into into the forest until he disappeared, though. Gregory notices Miria's concern, so he reminds her that what happened to Dawes and Grants isn't her fault. Miria assures him that she's fine, and quickly runs to inform Marielle about this, wanting to search for Dawes. Marielle immediately refuses, saying that she absolutely can't go into the forest, and they can't afford to risk her life or that of anyone else in the village. Miria tries to insist, but she gives up after hearing Marielle's harsh reprimands. Seeing her sad expression, Marielle tries to comfort her and asks her not to worry because she'll ask the guild to investigate and adventurers should come to help in due time. Miria apologizes for being so unreasonable and decides not to argue any further. The next day, the MC feels completely recovered after a good night of rest, but he finds a strange moving puddle near the river. When he tries to check its stats, his head suddenly starts hurting, and the divine voice tells him that the view stats skill can't provide such specific information at level 3. The MC doesn't understand what's going on because even his eyes are burning. The divine voice lets him know that the view stats skill has gone from level 3 to level 4. Thanks to that, he finally manages to open his eyes, but everything is too blurry and he still has no idea what this monster is. The MC runs away as soon as he has the opportunity, avoiding the attack from that weird slime. He still doesn't know what that thing is, but it's definitely something he shouldn't get close to. Its stats weren't anything special though, but he decides to just leave it be and search in a different direction today. After walking through the forest for a while, he runs into what seems to be a nice looking pot and thinks that it would probably be handy to put fruits and stuff in. However, as soon as he tries picking it up, the pot suddenly flies into the sky and hits him in the face. The MC quickly checks its stats, realizing that it's not just a pot, but a rank D monster called Potortoise. He doesn't know if a Potortoise is a tortoise or a pot, but he doesn't waste any time and uses Dragon Punch against it. Unfortunately, that attack did nothing to the monster, and it simply brought its HP from 28 to 27. That's why he decides to give it all he's got, attacking the monster from all directions, and even using the strength from his tail. Despite all his efforts, the Potortoise's HP only goes from 27 back to 28 since it used the rest skill. The MC desperately holds on to the monster, but he can't possibly break its shell, no matter how hard he tries. That's why he decides to try something different, assuming that this monster is like a non-aquatic type of tortoise. Without hesitation, he throws the Potortoise off a cliff, making it screech as it falls into the river. The divine voice lets him know that he has gained 36 experience points, and due to the effect of the Walking Egg title, he has earned additional experience points. He also has gone from level 14 to 15 with that, which makes him feel proud. However, the divine voice also informs him that he has received the title Dastardly King, and Wrongdoer has gone from level 2 to level 3. The MC just then realizes that he might have done something slightly evil by throwing that creature off a cliff, but he doesn't have much time to think about it since a group of Potortoise suddenly surrounds him. He quickly understands that the loud screech he heard was actually the normal skill Call Allies. The monsters are clearly unhappy with him, and they all gather to create a tall tower of Potortoise. This is not intimidating at all, so the MC simply jumps very high and crushes them all in one go. The divine voice informs him that he has gained the skill Meteorite, and he has gained 594 experience points. Due to the effect of the Walking Egg title, he has earned additional experience points, and he has gone from level 15 to level 30. The skill Fly has also gone from level 1 to level 2, and the View Stats skill has gone from level 4 to level 5. The MC is pretty satisfied with these results, realizing that beating a group of them is actually really efficient. Unfortunately, their shells are always going to break when he beat them, so he can't have the usable pot he wanted. He still leveled up and got some meat though, so it is not all that bad in the end. After taking one of the Potortoise, the MC mentions that he wants vegetables too, not just meat, since veggies are important. However, he still hasn't learned human transformation, even at this level, and he's got only 10 levels until his next evolution, but he doesn't know if it will really take that long for him to learn it. He suddenly stops walking when he hears the sound of footsteps, something he hasn't heard before in the forest. He quickly hides behind a tree to see what it is, and the only thing he spots is a bear walking, but something is clearly off about it. The divine voice lets him know that he is too far away, and the stats cannot be read, but the details on the species can be viewed. The MC decides to check that at least, and the divine voice informs him that it's a clay bear, a powerful D+ rank monster made entirely from clod, with a high recovery ability. The monster is the same rank as him, and it makes him think that he can stand a chance at beating it if he fights hard enough. Also, if the name is clay bear, then it technically means it is bear-shaped clay, in which case, maybe after he wins, he can freely mold it and fire it up to make stuff like pots and jars. That thought alone hypes him up enough, so he decides that he's going to make that clay bear into some furnishings for his pad. He carefully approaches the monster, since it looks like it hasn't noticed him at all yet. This calls for a sneak attack, so he quickly climbs up a tree and attacks the clay bear with King Fist. The monster notices him at the last moment and reacts fast enough to open the back of its body like a trap. The MC panics and manages to dodge that, realizing that that thing is definitely not a bear, and it has no right to call itself a bear. He quickly dodges again when the clay bear jumps at him and takes the opportunity to attack 2 times. items. That fortunately took a good amount of HP, bringing it down from 40 to 25. However, the clay bear immediately uses its high recovery ability, regenerating its HP in a few seconds. The MC realizes that he'll never beat the monster at this rate, so he just rolls around in circles to dodge any attack while he thinks what to do, since he can't beat it in one shot at his current level. The most powerful thing he has is that meteorite skill he just learned, but there's no way it could pick up that behemoth and fly. For now, he'll just have to use hit-and-run tactics, so he tries to go around to the back, then immediately run. The clay bear keeps regenerating itself, but the MC is sure he can win if he keeps running down its MP. Before he can continue with his attacks, the clay bear rages in desperation and uses a sandstorm skill, making it impossible for him to get near. Once the sandstorm finally subsides, he notices that the clay bear now has a kind of spike armor, so he can't hit it with his roll attack anymore. His plan of going around the back won't work anymore, but the clay bear apparently has lost a whole lot of MP. It went from 100 MP down to only 19, maybe because it used regenerate, sandstorm, and probably a transform skill. The clay bear suddenly grabs one of the sharp spikes on its back and throws it at him. The MC manages to dodge that and notices that the spike melted as soon as it hit the ground. The same happens to the other spikes the bear throws at him, so he decides to test something out and jumps at the bear to grab one of its arms and rip it out. He soon confirms that the clay softens when it's away from the body, so he uses the arm of the bear to create a ball, planning to use it to hit the bear with meteorite. That probably won't take away all its HP though, and the clay bear can still use regenerate even with just a little MP left. That's why he decides to throw himself along the clay ball, using his meteorite skill to crush the clay bear entirely, getting rid of a half of its body. The MC confirms that he beat the bear when the divine voice lets him know that he has gained 150 experience points. Due to the effect of the Walking Egg title, he has earned an additional 150 experience points, which means Young Plague Dragon has gone from level 30 to 33. The MC is glad that it actually worked, because that attack surely left him busted as well. The divine voice also informs him that he has gained the skill Nutcracker, though he doesn't think it was a very cool attack, but it sure did look like a nutcracker. In any case, he got the clay he wanted, so it's a win for him. Once he's back at the cave, he uses the clay to mold some pots and bowls, using his own fire breath to light the furnace. While he waits for it to finish firing, he decides to go gather some food, hoping to find some vegetables. The first thing he finds is a small mushroom, and the divine voice lets him know that it's a lightning shroom, which has an E rank value, because it leaches all nutrition from the trees it grows on, and they're unable to bear any fruit. The nutrients taken in make it rich and delicious, but it has a slightly paralyzing poison. The MC doesn't have resistance to that, so he decides to forget it and leave the mushroom behind. He's glad that he gets so many more details now that his view stat skill is leveled up. It's a huge help, and he's sure it'll be useful to find some good vegetables in this world. After a while walking through the forest, he runs into a giant pink flower and decides to appraise it with his skill. Before he can hear any information about it though, the flower suddenly opens up, baring its teeth. The MC panics and immediately cuts the flower from the stem, and the divine voice informs him that it's a carnivorous flower with value C-. It's a rare plant that eats animals, but it can't digest salt, so the salt is accumulated in the white part of the root. Even though it's a little disturbing, the MC approaches the root of the carnivorous plant since there's salt stocked up in there. Salt is crucial for cooking, so he decides to take some with him for his next meals. In the meantime, Miria leaves the village in secret and walks into the forest, despite Marielle's words. Marielle already told her that she would ask the guild to investigate, so adventurers should come to help in due time. However, if there's a change that Dawes is still alive even after what happened, she can't afford to wait any longer. She's not sure if what Bert said is true, but she still feels guilty about what happened, so there's no way she can just stay in the village and do nothing. After all, none of this would have happened if she— That's why if one of them is alive, she has to find him for sure, even if it goes against Marielle's orders. While she's walking through the forest, a dark worm suddenly jumps at her, taking her by surprise. Miria quickly reacts and casts a fireball to defend herself, defeating the monster with one blow. She clearly wasn't expecting that, but she tries to convince herself that she'll be fine if she keeps calm. Meanwhile, the MC finds a giant mushroom, and the divine voice informs him that it's actually a monster shroom, which has a D rank value. It can walk after reaching maturity and becomes a monster that attacks people, and it tastes similar to meat, so it's considered a delicacy. The MC is glad that he found another good one, and it seems like it'd make a flavorful broth when simmered. He finds another weird mushroom right after that, which makes him feel lucky, and the divine voice lets him know that it's called Morotrogia, with an A rank value. The MC is surprised that its value is so high, and the divine voice explains that it can revive a nation with a failing economy if successfully cultivated. That definitely sounds good, but the divine voice also mentions that it is hallucinogenic and causes an intense euphoria. 500 years ago, it was discovered that it could be crushed and mixed with stimulant drugs, which created a substantial number of addicts. The MC immediately interrupts the divine voice, not even letting it finish before he burns the mushrooms to ashes, saying that he's never touching that one. The divine voice then informs him that the title Itty Bitty Hero has gone from level 1 to level 2. Miria continues wandering around the forest, trying to avoid battle at all costs and hiding from most monsters. The MC finds a value B+ fruit called Piperus, and the divine voice explains that it has a unique aroma that works up an appetite and was at one time considered the most popular spice. Demand for the spice was high among the nobility, to the point where it had the same value of its weight in gold. The MC is surprised that this fruit was that valuable, so he decides to gather some to try. Meanwhile, Miria finds herself pretty deep in the forest already, and she starts hesitating, thinking that it might be too dangerous to go any further. She can see wild eyes in the top of the trees, which gives her a strong feeling of uneasiness. However, she refuses to give up so soon, and decides to take another look around the outskirts of the village and then go home. The MC enjoys his big haul of fruits in the meantime, and he soon also finds a light mushroom which really lives up to its name. He takes the light mushroom to the cave to light the place a little, and decides to check on the pottery he made. Fortunately, it worked perfectly, so now he can use his new pot to cook something. After lighting a fire, he cuts all the ingredients he found and throws them into the pot with some water and salt. He patiently waits for the food to be ready, and when it finally is, he decides to try some. The taste is as tasty as he expected, and the salt he got from the root of that carnivorous plant is really a game changer. Wasting no time, he grabs a pair of wooden chopsticks and feasts on the food he prepared, enjoying the saltiness and the umami of the meat mixing perfectly with the broth. Right after he finishes his plate of food, he feels like he has reclaimed a life he had forgotten. The divine voice lets him know that the title Mr. Cook has gone from level 1 to level 2. Despite how good the food was, the MC noticed that the bowl he made is a bit hard to drink from, and there was some spillage while he was eating as well. That's why he knows that he has to try making a new one that works better next time. He also decides that he'll make a spoon as well, and after that, he will cover the wall with bricks. He's just thinking about it for now, but the divine voice lets him know that he has gained the title Ceramic Artisan. The next day, in the outskirts of the forest, we see a carriage transporting some adventurers. The driver lets them know that they've finally come to the forest, so an adventurer girl wakes up her comrade, saying that they have arrived. Once they get out of the carriage, the adventurer girl says that this is definitely the place the guild wants them to investigate, Noah's Forest. The MC has no idea of what's going on, and he returns to the cave after hunting some gray wolves, saying that he's home. After a moment of silence that drags for a little too long, he realizes that no one's going to answer him, which makes him feel a little lonely. He decides not to think about that too much, and leaves it aside to say that he'll butcher the meat and strip the pelts from these wolves. He apparently already made some new pottery earlier, so he focuses on working on the gray wolves as fast as he can. Without wasting any time, he works diligently and decides that he will put the pelts out to dry later. Before that, he cuts some meat and seasons it with some ingredients he has in a bowl, leaving it there to marinate while he does other things. The MC starts feeling like he is getting pretty used to this world already, so everything is pretty peaceful. However, his calm demeanor disappears in an instant when he goes out of the cave to check the pelts he left out drying and sees some monkeys eating them. The monkeys run away as soon as they see him, and the MC knows that he has to do something, or they're going to eat his entire stock of jerky. He needs to fend them off somehow, and the best idea he comes up with is to poison them. After returning to the cave, he decides to steep some jerky in a poisonous concoction he made with different ingredients. He decides to search for more poisonous ingredients outside, and realizes that he has pretty much learned how to tell from sight whether wild plants are poisonous or not. After walking for a bit, he finds a field of flowers and knows that there must be some poison flowers around. The flowers are too pretty though, so he forgets poison for a moment, thinking that he should decorate the outside of his cave with some pretty flowers to help take the edge off the pains of everyday life. As he happily thinks about that idea, a small creature suddenly emerges from the field of flowers, taking him by surprise. The creature stares at him for a moment too long, and the MC is sure that he has never seen that kind of monster before. He uses his view stat skill and finds out that it's a Venom Princess Lacerda, which has Venom Fang, Venom Claws, Double Poison, and Poison Master as its skills. It only has poison-related skills, and before he can properly react, the Venom Princess suddenly uses the clay gun skill, jumping at him from behind to bite him. The monster immediately leaves after that, making him think that it gave up the fight. However, that's when the venom hits, making him feel a strange kind of pain, as the divine voice informs him that poison resistance has gone from level 3 to level 4. This poison is definitely something else, because he can't even move his shoulder at all. After a while feeling extremely dizzy, the MC falls on the ground, realizing that this is part of that monster's plan. He checks his stats only to see that he's been poisoned with a major special venom, though he doesn't know if it's truly different from the normal kind. The view stats skill can't provide such specific information at level 3, so there's not much he can do. The MC tries to stand, but the pain is getting pretty bad, and now that he thinks of it, he hasn't seen any plants that can counter poison. There must be a way to fix this though, and he decides to get some information on that black lizard to find out. The divine voice informs him that it's a Venom Princess Lacerda, a rank D monster that poisons its prey and flees, then feasts upon the remains after the poison takes effect. By ingesting highly poisonous substances, it creates a potent poison internally. Its bodily fluids can serve as an antidote to the poison it creates, and it uses that to bargain for its life whenever it gets captured. The MC soon understands that he really needs to capture it to get the antidote, which doesn't sound easy, but he still can move a little thanks to his poison resistance. That black lizard must be waiting nearby for the poison to kill him, so he's going to have to gamble here. Without wasting more time, time, the MC starts running away, knowing that losing sight of him would make it all a waste, so the Venom Princess is surely going to chase after him. He soon spots the Venom Princess and immediately uses the roll skill to chase after her. Lacerda uses the same skill to run away though, but the MC knows that up ahead is that cliff that he jumped over when he was running away from the spider, so he'll draw her over there and capture her. The divine voice informs him that the skill roll has gone from level 4 to level 5. That means that he's much faster now, and that should make things easier. However, the MC suddenly stops by the impact of a clay lance, and he only then realizes that Lacerda can use the clay gun skill even when she's rolling. That only annoys him even more, so he soon starts chasing after her again, and this time he manages to dodge all of her attacks. He admits that the Venom Princess is really good at rolling, and one day she'll get even better than him at using that attack. However, he's not about to let her escape, so he decides to use the Nutcracker skill against her. This manages to stop the Venom Princess, but that's when the MC sees her falling off the cliff. He immediately jumps after her, because if Lacerda dies, he won't have an antidote to live. The strong poison damages him midair, making his vision blurry, but he manages to catch Lacerda and promises that he will save her. He then uses baby breath to propel himself in the air, bringing them both back to land safely. They've been saved because of that, but the MC can't stand the pain anymore, and he's pretty sure he's going to die, but there's nothing he can do about it before passing out. Meanwhile, Miria spends another whole day in the forest looking for Dawes, but she had no luck today either. She wonders where Dawes could be, but that's when she hears Marielle's voice calling for her. Miria quickly runs back to the village, and Marielle mentions that she hadn't seen her lately, so she was concerned and paid a visit to her house, but she wasn't there. Miria nervously explains that she was stuck in bed with a slight cold, but she went for a walk after she started feeling better. Marielle easily accepts that excuse, but she still seriously asks her if she isn't going into the forest. Miria firmly denies it and asks her to believe her, so Marielle decides not to question her anymore. She also mentions that she's gotten word from the guild that adventurers are headed their way, so she doesn't have to worry. Leaving that aside, Marielle asks her to give her a hand, since she's about to go shopping now. Miria quickly agrees and secretly sighs in relief, feeling glad that Marielle didn't catch her. After a while, the MC finally wakes up and sees the Venom Princess, and for a moment, he thinks that she's only waiting for the poison to kill him. However, he's taken by surprise when he stands up and his arms don't feel heavy anymore, which means the poison is gone. He soon understands that Lacerda gave him the antidote, so he doesn't hesitate to thank her. He mentions that they had a really fierce battle going through blood, sweat, and tears, so it probably made her realize they were kindred spirits. Lacerda doesn't deny it, and now that the MC is getting a better look, he realizes that she's actually pretty cute. He decides to take her back to his cave and prepares some food for the two of them. Lacerda enjoys the food, and even though she can't speak, she somehow lets him know that the food tastes good. The MC is just glad, because it's nice to have someone else to eat with, since he's always been alone until now. He then mentions that neither of them really have names, because Young Plague Dragon and Venom Princess Lacerda are just species names. Lacerda seems to realize this as well, but the MC reassures her, saying that they don't really need names. The Venom Princess rubs her head against his, and he mentions that it seems like she's gotten pretty attached to him already. He realizes that she is actually his first friend, and tells her that she can stay here as long as she'd like. Lacerda cheers, and that's when she notices a pot with something dark and toxic inside. The MC explains that it's the special poison he made earlier, and he freaks out for a bit when Lacerda simply starts eating it. She doesn't seem affected at all though, and he just then remembers that when she eats something that's highly poisonous, it only strengthens her own venom. For a moment, he wonders if it's delicious to her, and he decides to try a little to find out. However, as soon as he tastes it, he falls onto the ground and screeches in pain for the poison. The divine voice lets him know that the skill poison resistance has gone from level 4 to level 5. He quickly recovers thanks to that, but he still wonders how Lacerda can eat that like it's nothing. The next day, they both go back into the forest and face some gray wolves together. Lacerda uses her clay gun skill for long-range attacks, while the MC finishes them off with his fists. That was a cinch with the two of them, so he lets Lacerda know that they've got this whole teamwork thing down. The two of them continue walking through the forest, and Lacerda helps him in many ways. She even gets some coconuts from the top of a palm tree so they can have a refreshing snack while they're at it. At night, the MC wakes up, a little startled to find Lacerda sleeping closely on his shoulder. It is easy to forget that this little thing is packing a deadly poison, so he's just hoping that she doesn't bite him when she's half asleep. However, he admits that it feels normal for her to be here now, and it makes him feel like this life isn't bad at all. The next day, they go back into the forest again, and he soon finds that spicy fruit he wanted. He decides to try some, and it's exactly what he was expecting, though now he wants to eat meat. Lacerda also tries some of that fruit, but she doesn't like it as much, and he explains that spice isn't meant to be eaten straight. She suddenly senses something she actually finds delicious, and decides to guide him towards it. The MC follows her without a doubt, but he regrets it as soon as he smells something that stinks like rotting flesh. Lacerda waits for him next to a giant dark mushroom, and the divine voice informs him that it's called Candida cadaverus, which has a B value. It is a giant mushroom that emits the odor of a corpse, and it has a potent poison, but practically no animals would attempt to eat it anyway. The MC asks her if she's drawn to its poison, and Lacerda is simply preparing trying to devour that mushroom. However, before she can get any closer, the MC burns the mushroom to a crisp, saying that she'll reek if she eats something like that. The Venom Princess immediately cries and throws a tantrum, so he apologizes and tells her that he'll make it up to her with a different poisonous plant. Lacerda uses her clay gun skill, and for a moment, he wonders if she's really that mad at him. He soon realizes that she's actually aiming at something else, letting him know that there is an enemy nearby. She shoots the clay gun without hesitation and strikes a monster that was hiding behind some bushes. The monster suddenly comes out from its hiding spot, and the MC freezes when he sees a creature with two heads, one of a weeping dog and one of an angry dog. He doesn't know what this pressure he's feeling is, but it's definitely not something good. He immediately checks its stats and finds out that they're twin heads, and they're currently enraged and afraid. Not only does it have overpowered stats, but it also has creepy sounding skills like gravity and gravidon. The MC honestly doesn't know if he can win under these circumstances, but skills like tenacious and marking sound like they are used for tracking, which means that escaping seems difficult too. He glances at Lacerda for an instant, and it looks like they're both thinking the same thing. Without a word, Lacerda uses her roll skill to rush past the monster, and the MC attacks to draw its attention. The Venom Princess is supposed to use that opening to hit it with her poison, and the rest should be just a waiting game. That plan sounds perfect, but when the MC tries to punch one of the monster's heads, the other one tries to bite him. He quickly backs off, realizing that it won't be that easy apparently. The weeping dog suddenly casts a spell on him, making it impossible for him to move at all. His body feels heavy, letting him know that the monster is using its gravity skill. The angry dog sees the opportunity to attack now that he can't move, but Lacerda uses her clay gun to strike the weeping dog. That makes the gravity skill wear off in an instant, so the MC doesn't hesitate to jump and attack them with baby breath. The monster screeches in pain at the flames, but it simply uses a recovery skill right after to heal its wounds. The MC gets frustrated, wondering if everything in this forest has recovery skills of some sort or something. Despite that, he at least has learned something, which is that the angry face does physical attacks, and the weeping face uses magic. The weeping dog prepares another spell, and it looks more dangerous than the previous one, so the MC assumes it must be gravidon. He doesn't know what it is exactly, but he definitely can't let it use something like that. That's why he immediately runs straight towards the monster, letting the angry dog bite his shoulder. He then takes the opportunity to use Dragon Punch on the weeping face, and that's when Lacerda does her part and bites the monster to poison it. She quickly goes back to his side after that, and the weeping dog uses recovery magic to try to save itself. However, the poison is pretty potent, and the MC knows that no recovery skill is going to save it because he has experienced it once, so he knows it good and well. The monster screeches as its HP goes down in seconds, but the angry dog rages and suddenly bites the head of the weeping dog off, stopping the poison from spreading any further. Both the MC and Lacerda freeze at that, and he swears that he is never evolving into a two-headed dragon or anything like that. He doesn't think the monster can use magic anymore though, so he decides to check its stats right away. The twin head's status show that it's enraged, but there's a different skill now called sacrifice. Just then, the beheaded weeping dog jumps at them, and the MC realizes that it's trying to drag them down with it. Lacerda barely manages to dodge the first attack, so the MC immediately asks her to run. She uses the roll skill to run away, as he said, but the weeping dog immediately chases after her, disappearing into the forest. The MC tries to go after her to save her, but the enraged angry dog stands in the way, not letting him through. This puts him in a difficult position, because he has to hurry after them or the Venom Princess will be in trouble. That leaves him no choice but to fight the angry dog with sheer strength now that it has no magic left. The MC grabs it by the neck and throws it high into the air, just to jump right afterward and grab its head. He lets the monster know that it's over, and then makes it crash against the ground with great force, completely crushing its head. The divine voice informs him that the skill Nutcracker has gone from level 1 to level 2 with that. The MC is glad that this guy's taken care of, but he knows that it isn't over yet, because the weeping dog is still alive somehow, and he has to find the Venom Princess. Without wasting more time, he uses the roll skill to rush into the forest, hoping that Lacerda is okay. It's only been a few days since they met, but they have done so much together already, so he can't let her die. The MC remembers all the moments he's lived with the Venom Princess until now, and realizes that she is the only friend he has in this world. That's why he just wants her to be okay, and he even thinks that he doesn't need the human transformation skill. But in exchange for that, he hopes that the god of this world lets her be alright. The MC suddenly stops when he sees a fresh bloodstain on the ground, and that alone makes him panic. He starts desperately calling for the Venom Princess, begging for her to answer, wherever she is. After a moment, he manages to hear a weak squeak, and the Venom Princess comes out of some bushes, deeply injured and bleeding. The MC freezes when he sees her in that state, and as soon as she comes out, the head of the weeping dog jumps at her, trying to finish her off. With no hesitation, the MC jumps high in the air to meet that monster, and he immediately punches the weeping dog. After crushing the weeping head against the ground, the MC doesn't stop punching it repeatedly, completely enraged. He throws punch after punch without stopping for even a second, turning the weeping face into mush with his bare fists in no time. Once that's over, the MC goes back and gently takes the Venom Princess into his hands, saying that everything everything's okay now, and he's happy that she is still alive. He soon crumbles apart and starts crying in relief, so Lacerda tries licking his tears off his face. The divine voice then informs him about his progress, saying that he has received 234 experience points, and due to the effect of the Walking Egg title, he has earned an additional 234 experience points as well. The MC asks the divine voice to shut up for a moment because he's not thinking about any of that right now. He has realized that Lacerda is his one and only precious friend that he trusts in this world. So as long as he has her, he doesn't even care if he can become a human or not anymore. Just as he says that, the divine voice mentions that young Plague Dragon has gone from level 33 to level 37, and he has received the skill Human Transformation. The MC freezes for a moment right there, trying to process the new information, and he almost can't believe that that really just happened. In the meantime, back in the village, Marielle peacefully enjoys a cup of tea, and Miria informs her that she's finished cleaning the entrance and the hallway. She mentions that they hardly ever get guests from out of town like this, so she wonders what they're like. Miria notices the old book sitting next to her on the table, and Marielle tells her that it's a book about monsters she took from the library just because she thought she might like it. Miria thanks her and decides to take a look, seeing a page about darkworms with a large script along with the pictures. She can't read what it says though, so Marielle explains that it's ancient text and it describes the monster's rank. The darkworm is F rank, so even she could beat it, but D rank monsters are another story. She has to be a trained adventurer to have any hope of defeating those. Moreover, monsters higher than B rank are extremely dangerous, and only heroes and saints can defeat them. Miria is clearly concerned just by the description of it, but she decides to continue reading the book and sees a page about the rock dragon. Marielle tells her that the book says it's C rank, but she heard that they can get stronger with evolution. It is no doubt a monster that would easily kill any normal human, which is why she always tells her and the village people to never wander into the forest. Miria finally understands how dangerous it truly is, so she accepts her warning once again. After a moment of silence, Marielle mentions that it seems they have arrived, and just then, the two adventurer girls from before enter the house. A few minutes earlier, the two adventurers, Meltia and Yuno, were walking towards the village. Yuno asks Meltia why she took a C rank request even though she's with her, since C rank is pretty difficult, and they probably should have waited for their other members to come. Meltia tells her that it's actually easier if she's the only one with her, because she can just flee if the going gets tough. Yuno reluctantly mentions that she's not too confident she can escape though, and asks her if she's assuming that she's fast because she's part dog. Meltia just walks away, so Yuno assumes that she's simply okay with her dying, which really hurts her feelings. Meltia clarifies that she was joking, and explains that even though this is a C rank request, the objective is not to kill monsters, but to search the forest, so she didn't think it'd be particularly dangerous. Yuno then remembers that the request is about searching for a person who's supposed to be dead or something, though that sounds fishy to her. Once they finally reach the village, they go straight into Marielle's house, as she instructed. At first sight, Meltia mentions that it isn't often they see an elf in a human village, so it was a surprise. Marielle clarifies that she is only half-elf to be precise, and she asks Miria to leave for a little while. Once Miria leaves the room, Marielle explains that she doesn't want her to hear the details about this mission. This dead yet alive person they'll be looking for is a man named Daz, who was in a group with Miria, and they fought against a rock dragon. Marielle explains that Miria feels responsible for Daz's death, so she suspects that she's been going into the forest to look for him. It is extremely dangerous for her to go into the forest alone, and that's why she wants them to uncover the truth behind the rumor. Knowing this, Meltia and Yuno don't waste any more time and head into the forest. Yuno mentions that they basically just need to search the forest and find proof that Daz is dead. Meltia tells her that finding his corpse would be best, but in the worst case, they can settle this by just searching for several days and reporting that they found no suspicious people. As they head deeper into the forest, the MC takes Lacerda back to the cave and covers her with some herbs so her injuries heal faster. Since she'll be deeply asleep for a while, he decides to head out, saying that he just wants to check his stats after leveling up, of course. Once he does, he confirms that he indeed has the human transformation skill, and even though he said he didn't need it, he can't help but get excited. He decides to get away from the cave because the Venom Princess might attack if he suddenly became a human. The MC tries to convince himself that he doesn't want to do stuff like going to the village, interacting with people, or seeing Miria again. He keeps lying to himself until he reaches a lake, and he almost can't believe that he got the human transformation skill the moment he thought he'd be okay without it. He doesn't know what he should do if he becomes human though, because he doesn't want to part ways with the Venom Princess. However, living in a proper village would be nice, so if he switches every 3 days, maybe he can live in both the cave and the village. In any case, just the possibility that he could gain the trust of humans is awesome, so he can't help but feel super excited now and hopes he's a really handsome guy. He could think about this forever, but he decides to just go for it and uses the human transformation skill for the first time. His body instantly starts changing, but when he looks at his reflection in the water, his appearance is not what he expected at all. Unfortunately, he is even more grotesque than a young plague dragon, and he doesn't look human at all. The MC asks if human transformation is supposed to be this janky, but the divine voice tells him that it can't provide explanations of that nature at level 3. This only riles him up even more, so he asks the divine voice how many times it is going to give him hope and then snatch it away from him. In the first place, he wants to know how other young plague dragons use this skill to do anything evil at all. When he checks his stats, he notices that both attack and defense are down by half, and his MP is getting used up really quickly. The skill turned out to be worse than he thought, so he just gives up and returns to his normal form. Meanwhile, Meltia and Yuno manage to defeat a giant spider in the forest, but as they walk, the forest starts getting pretty dark, and they haven't seen any sign of Dawes. Yuno is sure that he can't be this far inside the forest though, and Meltia mentions that the monsters have gotten stronger too, so they should head back now. As soon as she says that, they both stop in their tracks when they see a cave, specifically the MC's cave. Meltia and Yuno cautiously approach the place, noticing two statues at the entrance of the cave. One is clearly a dragon statue, and the other looks kind of like a human, so Yuno assumes it's some sort of shrine made by dragon worshippers. Meltia tells her that she doesn't think this village has any religions like that though, and she can tell that these figures have been imbued with a powerful magic. Yuno then notices a smell, and after looking around for a bit, it doesn't take long for them to find meat drying out on the trees. Meltia takes hold of her sword and decides to take a look inside the cave, noticing how bright it is because of the light shrooms on the walls. She finds furs on the floor as a carpet, and Yuno notices a pot with something that smells good inside. She mentions that there are tons of red fruits in it, and Meltia immediately assumes that these red fruits used as spices are probably red gold peeperies. That's clearly a shock for both of them, because they've never even seen them before. Yuno quickly says that she's going to take some of them home with her, but Meltia warns her that she can't do that. After all, this cave is likely a hideout for thieves, and they could get caught up in some shady business if they're not careful. Lacerda suddenly wakes up and gets on guard as soon as she sees them, and Meltia asks Yuno to stay far away from that. After a moment, Lacerda exits the cave, and Meltia explains that it's a monster nicknamed the Venom Princess, which can kill with only a bite. Luckily for them, it seems to have fled for some reason, so they need to get out of this cave as soon as possible. Meanwhile, the MC paces around outside the cave, and he tries to make Lacerda calm down. He mentions that he saw the two adventurers go in the cave earlier, so they must be really impressed to see his pad. However, if he showed up right now, they would just assume he was a monster wandering into the cave. The excitement takes over him, and he decides to use the human transformation skill once again. Lacerda watches him transform this time, and somehow, the MC convinces himself that it's fine. After all, he learned that this world has demi-humans after seeing Yuno, who's part dog. He's sure there's a chance they could think of him as a puppy human, so he decides to shoot his shot and show up like that, happily saying hi. Both Meltia and Yuno immediately freeze, completely terrified by his grotesque form. Meltia snaps out of it first and forces Yuno to react and attack that beast. She throws the MC onto the ground, and Meltia tries to finish him off with her sword, using an attack called Lucent Luna. That blow easily cancels the MC's transformation, and that's when they realize that he's actually a plague dragon. Meltia decides to run immediately because her MP is already out, and there's no way for them to fight it. The MC tries to stop them and explain everything, but they're gone before he can do anything, and that leaves him feeling dejected and defeated. Meltia and Yuno continue running until they think it's safe, making sure that monster is not following them. Meltia tells her that she didn't think there were plague dragons living in this forest, so it was a nasty surprise. Yuno clarifies that they did tell them about rock dragons though, and asks her if they should go back to the village for now. Meltia declines the idea, since they hardly have anything to report if they go back now. Besides, they're going to need more manpower if they want to investigate further, which means they'll need to call the usual crew. That's why Meltia decides to leave the forest for now and get in touch with them. The next day, the MC wakes up fully recovered after resting all night, but he still feels down about what happened. He remembers something while he eats dry meat for breakfast, so he quickly heads back into the cave to talk to Lacerda. He explains that there are some stupid monkeys that are always stealing the jerky he makes, so he wants to poison the meat to teach them a lesson. He'd like the poison to be as strong as possible, without any color or smell that gives it away. Lacerda easily understands the task, so she produces poison and puts it in a pot. The MC is surprised that it's actually poison, since it perfectly looks like water, and there is hardly any color or smell. Lacerda is clearly pretty proud of her work, and the MC immediately marinates all the jerky with that poison and puts it outside. They both wait behind some bushes, and nothing happens for quite a while, until the MC almost falls asleep. That's when he hears the monkeys writhing and panicking after one of them falls because of the poison. The MC takes the opportunity to attack, saying that none of them are a match for him. 3 monkeys surround him, forming a team to attack, but MC warns them that Lacerda and he make a better team. That's when Lacerda uses her clay gun skill to attack, taking them off guard, and the MC takes the chance to knock them down with his tail. Just when they thought the victory was theirs, the monkeys use a skill to call their allies. In no time, a huge beast appears before them, and the MC assumes it is the alpha of their pack. The monkeys knew that they couldn't win, so they called in a higher-ranking monster. The MC quickly checks its stats to see what he's facing, and he soon finds out that this is a giant orangutan, and its stats are on par with his. However, the only difference is that this beast has skills like Quick, Power, Supporter, and Clan Boss. It has a skill that strengthens its followers, which is a big problem, and he knows he has to end this fast. Without wasting any time, the MC uses his baby breath to attack, but the army of monkeys forms an earth wall to protect the clan boss. He then realizes that he took too long, and the monkeys soon attack him again, but this time they're much faster. Lacerda uses clay gun to fight some of them, but one of the monkeys takes the MC off guard and bites his shoulder. The clan boss runs straight towards him, but the Venom Princess uses her roll skill to hit its face, and the MC punches the monkey off his shoulder. However, that's when the clan boss grabs Lacerda and throws her towards a tree, but the MC manages to catch her in time and leaves her safely on the ground. At this rate, he knows that things are just going to keep getting worse, so they must do something. He asks for more information about this thing, hoping that the Divine Voice skill can help him for once. The Divine Voice tells him that the giant Orangutan is a D+ rank monster, and explains that it's the evolved form of an orangutan that has fought and defeated the former alpha to become chief. Evolving through battle is considered sacred to the orangutans. Furthermore, they know a lot of support magic to assist their clan. That information doesn't help the MC much, but he just then remembers that he saw telepathic communication among its list of skills earlier. He quickly checks its stats to confirm and sees the telepathy skill in the list, which means maybe there's room to negotiate with the clan boss. Without hesitation, the MC takes hold of the poisoned monkey on the ground, using it as a hostage. He asks them to listen to him if they don't want him to hurt the monkey, and the clan boss surprisingly listens. The clan boss uses its telepathy skill to communicate with the MC, saying that it's incredible because he must know about his abilities. The MC tries to process the fact that he's speaking telepathically right now, but it throws him off a little. Once he gets it together, he mentally speaks to the clan boss and explains that the monkey might die from the poison. However, the Venom Princess can give it an antidote, and if she does that, they'll have to let them go. The clan boss immediately says that that's out of the question, because they have proven themselves too big of a threat for them to ignore. That's why it's better to dispose of them now while they have the chance, despite the sacrifices it may take. The MC warns him that if the Venom Princess and he come at them with all they've got, he has confidence that none of them will walk away alive. Despite this warning, the clan boss simply tells him that they weed out the weak and let them die anyway, because that's the way of their clan, just as he killed his forefather and ascended the throne. The MC only then realizes that there's seriously no room for negotiation in this situation, but there must be something he can do, because they can't go on like this. That's why he decides to challenge the clan boss to a duel. The clan boss is clearly surprised by this, because in their world, duels only occur in disputes between clans or when an alpha is supplanted. This is unprecedented, but he thinks it may work, because the rules could still apply even when fighting another species, only if he and the lizard are their own clan. The MC confirms that they are, so the clan boss decides to accept his challenge. He clarifies that the duel is a sacred ritual and warns the monkeys that none may interfere until there is a winner. Once that's settled, the Venom Princess extracts the poison from the monkey's body. The other monkeys suddenly grab Lacerda, and the clan boss explains that it's just to ensure she respects the rules of their duel, but she will be released if he beats him. The MC has no choice but to allow this, because he finally found a way to make this one-on-one. However, the clan boss has buffs and stuff, and he doesn't know how to fight that. Before he can even think about it for a bit, the clan boss suddenly jumps at him and attacks with his bare fist. The MC manages to block that with his arms, but the clan boss uses his legs to give him a strong kick that sends him flying away. Without letting him recover, the clan boss jumps at him right away and gives him another blow. The MC knows that he's just going to keep punching him, so he quickly uses the roll skill to avoid any attacks. The clan boss instantly chases after him like a beast, saying that running around doesn't make a fight, and his actions are an insult to them and disrespectful to their ritual. This makes the MC think twice, because he doesn't know what will happen to the Venom Princess if he keeps running, so he has to do something. Knowing this, he suddenly turns in the clan boss's direction, hitting him straight on the face to throw him off balance. Once he does this, the MC jumps high in the air and attacks the clan boss with a rolling tail attack. The sheer impact of this attack shatters the ground beneath their feet, and the MC doesn't give the clan boss any time to recover, throwing attack after attack without mercy. He takes some distance and checks his stats to see the damage he's done, noticing that the clan boss is in a state of minimal confusion after receiving all those blows. His low HP also lets the MC know that his attack actually took off more than he thought it would. That's why he takes the chance to attack again, but this time, the clan boss repels him, using all of his MP on agility. This makes him a lot faster, so the MC barely can dodge all of his attacks, and he tries to use baby breath to defend himself. However, the clan boss interrupts his attempt to attack with a strong punch that crushes him on the ground. The MC quickly gets out of the way before receiving another blow, knowing that he can't possibly get away from him like this. That leaves him no other choice than to face the clan boss in a head-on fist fight. He uses telepathy to tell the clan boss that this is a duel between two chiefs, so he must come at him head-on if he's not scared. The clan boss easily takes the bait, getting riled up rather quickly, so they soon begin throwing hands. After a while fighting that way, the MC is almost at his limit, and it's the same for the clan boss. The duel ends with a decisive blow from both sides, and the two of them instantly collapse, unable to fight anymore. As the MC loses consciousness, the Divine Voice informs him that Dragon Punch has gone from level 2 to level 3. He also has received 162 experience points, and due to the effect of the Walking Egg title, he has earned an additional 162 experience points. He went from level 37 to level 39 with that, and he also has gained the title Clan Boss level 1.